Thank you for joining me today, Hannah.
Thank you for having me.
Seeing that you are a paralegal in the employment department,
Yeah.
I thought this would be a great opportunity to discuss settlement agreements.
Yeah.
Starting off with, what actually is a settlement agreement?
Settlement agreement is a legally binding agreement between an employer and employee, usually used to resolve a problem or end employment. It can arise from a range of different issues such as redundancy, discrimination, harassment, etc. And it usually involves some compensation for the employee in exchange for them agreeing not to bring any claims against their employer in the future.
Okay, so when would a settlement agreement typically be used?
Usually when employment comes to an end by way of a redundancy, so the employer might wish to offer you an enhanced redundancy instead of offering you just a statutory redundancy, or when somebody is being dismissed for gross misconduct or something like that, or maybe if an employee has raised a grievance for harassment and discrimination.
Yeah. Are there any legal requirements?
Yes, it must be in writing, it must be signed by the employer and employee and a legal advisor. So legal advice is a necessity for anybody who wishes to enter into a settlement agreement. If somebody enters into a settlement agreement without seeking legal advice, it could mean that it's not legally binding. So it's really important that the employee obtains legal advice before signing it.
And what should an employee do if they're faced with a settlement agreement?
Speak to an employment lawyer. So, for example, Attwells have a fantastic employment law team that deal with settlement agreements every single day. And also check the agreement, see if there's any deadlines for it to be signed, because if you do miss a deadline, your offer of compensation may be withdrawn.
Yeah, and what would happen if an employee wanted to refuse a settlement agreement?
So it really does depend on the situation, on how that settlement agreement's come about. For example, if there's a redundancy situation and the company wish to offer an enhanced redundancy, they'll offer it by way of a settlement agreement. Now, if the employee does not wish to take that, then they run the risk of not getting any enhanced payment and having to go through the full redundancy process and only getting their statutory redundancy.
And what advice would you give to someone that has just been handed a settlement agreement?
Call Attwells or another employment lawyer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Speak to a lawyer as soon as possible. A lot of people see these agreements and get quite flustered because they usually they tend to be from about 9 to 15 pages, sometimes even more. It can look very confusing to somebody who's not legally qualified. So first thing to do is speak to a lawyer or a legal advisor with experience in employment law, because they will and they should guide you through the process from start to finish.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for answering the questions.
Thank you.